I'm here with Sandy Goodwin. Sandy, how are you?
I am fine, cold, but fine.
You're in the Pacific Northwest, right?
I'm up on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington on the sacred ancestral lands of the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe, um, due south of Victoria, Canada.
I hear it's beautiful up there.
It's gorgeous, but it's cold too.
I'm actually in southeast Michigan, so it's quite cold down here. We just got a little bit of snow recently.
We can compare snow.
For sure. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk to tonight a little bit about yourself. Want to find a little bit more about who you are, and wanted to talk a little bit about this press release that you wrote for Nobody Sits in the Legislature.
Sure.
First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I was born with Mobius at a time when there was, it's 71 years ago, so a long time ago, when there was really no knowledge of Mobius. And it took me 22 years just to get a diagnosis. And another 10, 11 years to find one other person with Mobius. And in the 80s, I found several more, and then things picked up in the 90s and went on. And for me, finding others with Mobius, getting the diagnosis was really important. But as I got older, I saw different needs beyond a diagnosis and getting fixed to being part of the community of humanity. And anyway, now I've been teaching for 44 years. I've retired, bought a house up about a 5-minute walk from the Bluffs in Agnew, Washington. And I'm very involved with a variety of disability and mental health things. Local, regional mental health on an advisory council. I was with Disability Rights Washington on a mental health advisory council and also the chair of the council. And we dealt with federal law. I work with a group here in Washington responsible for assistive technology. And I'm also on the board of directors for the UU, Unitarian Universalist Mental Health Network. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what I've done. I also got very involved in teacher advocacy, teacher workplace, quality work life. And we had teachers who were dying of suicide because of bullying. And so a group of us, our work went from knowing about the suicides to working with a national union, getting federal legislation, and meeting with people in Washington, D.C. to change things. So that's what I've been kind of doing in a nutshell.
Tell me a little bit about the press release that you have written for Nobody Sits in the Legislature. What led you to write this, and what's been on your heart lately?
Okay. While having the diagnosis for Mobius syndrome was critical in learning how others have lived, I have found for my own recovery and growth, I wanted to connect with a broader community than those just with Mobius or even facial difference. I've connected with what is called the recovery community or the psychiatric survivors community, because so much of what we have dealt with with Mobius has been social emotional, and I have found a lot of growth and leadership within here. I am a certified peer specialist. I've taken advanced training in a variety of things in that domain. But anyway, I would hope that we can go beyond the medical model of just seeing Mobius as a diagnosis of this small thing, seeing people that need to get fixed, seeing us as the problem, and cure the smile surgery and the OT and whatever is the solution. And the assumption that the only person who can help us is a professional. I would like to take that to a different place, because the downside of all that is that we are marginalized. We feel powerless, it's demeaning, and we are reduced to a diagnosis, our defining characteristic. The reality is all of us have a unique voice, a complex experience of what it is to have Mobius, and we have our own rights to self-determination. And I would hope that we can see Mobius within the broad spectrum of disability, just like we see race and class and gender. And when I think about identity development, Jennifer Gibson is a psychologist who wrote about disability identity development. And you know, when little ones are born, they don't know that they have a disability. And if they have no model for a disability, they don't know how to think. Their medical needs are met, but not the disability. And they're kind of taught to deny things. Like if a child says, I feel ugly, I can't smile. No, you're beautiful. The problem with that is that there will be children out there that will say, you're ugly. And that hurts if the child does not hear a compassionate honesty from the adults around them. And disability becomes a silent member in the family. And so I wanted us to unify, not just within the Mobius community or the facial difference community, but to see that our needs are part of humanity's needs. And you know, I would hope that parents would connect with trusted adults to help them understand how to navigate childhood with a disability. And I've gone from hating Mobius, seeing it as the worst curse, to realizing the strength that I have with it. And I would hope that with Mobius Syndrome Awareness Day, that is something that we see, that we've got strength, and yet we need the able-bodied community around us to recognize where they are being ableist, and so that we are part of their fabric, we're not separated. So that's pretty much it.
And the one thing that you said, I think is really, really impactful. You said that often people with Mobius feel marginalized. It's the needing, and to be reduced to a diagnosis. It's really interesting as I look at my own life. I'm 40 now. From the time I was a child from now, you know, when I was a kid, and you read about this a little bit in the press release, but you mentioned that often people with Mobius don't really meet on someone until they're older in life. I think that's changing now to the social media. I was 29 and I would never meet someone and just call it. I just called my eyes out to finally hear someone who really understands what I go through every day. I have two questions for you. One is, why do you think that if you look at people in the community now, and not just movies, but disabilities as a whole, if we go back and take that 10,000 foot view, you see people who have really learned to, I don't want to say cope with, but they've learned to, their disability is a part of who they are. So they've embraced it, they use it in their line of work, they're not ashamed of it. Then you have people that they really still struggle with that diagnosis, they struggle with that loneliness, and we all do it to a certain extent, you know. But unfortunately, when we go out into the community, the burden to prove ourselves is still on us. And a prime example is going out to a store or a fast food place and ordering the food. They look at you like you're stupid, and but I think we need to change that narrative. Let the people who are able-bodied know that the burden to understand a person with disability is not on the person with disability, it's on you to understand them in the way they communicate.
I'm not sure if I understand, but what I'm thinking of is this: when I went into teaching way back when, there was no one that gave me an iota of information about how to speak to the kids about having Mobius. I had to do it. I had to figure it out. And I remember I'd rather walk in coals of fire, be dismembered inch by inch, than talk about having Mobius. But I had to do it in order to teach with the kids. And what I sensed after doing it year after year after year after year was I got better at it. And I began, as I shared having Mobius with others, each time I shared, it's like I was able to separate myself and have more integrity. That I'm telling them this is what I am, and yet I am a person with integrity. I am as whole and as worthy as you are. And a couple of years ago, I was here at the grocery store, and a little kid comes up to me and says, "You look weird. You look different." And so I said to him, I says, "You know, that's not the nicest thing to say to somebody." And I started talking to mom, and she just didn't quite get it. I says, "That's not how you do things. You need to work on this with him so he knows a better way to do it." But I think that we, because we talk different, we hear different, we look different, we have to find a way to convey that to another person so that our integrity stays intact. And does that answer your question?
It does. It does. One of the things I think that I know one of the things that I struggle with is that often I'll meet people who, you know, I had an adult that told me this one time, and it was just so bizarre. She called me aside, she goes, "I'm gonna ask you, were you in a car accident?" I was like, "No, I was born like this." But what I find though, what I find interesting is that, so I have a master's degree in social work, but I find that sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sometimes I have to use that card just to level the playing field because people don't take me seriously otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's almost like she needs to understand that the question she asked is born out of an ignorant mindset. And this is where, you know, just like Kathleen Bogart wrote in I think is the Face Equality also wrote about, this is a humanity issue. This is not just a facial difference issue. This is beginning to see you and me and everyone else as worthy as whole. And if somebody has a question about what is being said or whatever, that they internally know how to ask the question so it's not offensive, you know. And that's why we need these awareness days, not for ourselves, but for the greater world out there, so that they can understand we are people. We are fully worthy as anyone else.